Hello students and friends, this is Wilfred Fernandez and presenting to you my first video on teaching. I will be coming up with some more videos in future. Today I have chosen a topic principle of management, which is there in the 12th standard syllabus of the subject Organization of Commerce and Management. Now I will be covering up over here Henry Fayol's 14 principles. Now before you write an answer, you have to give a brief introduction about who was Henry Fayol and something about him, which I have mentioned on the screen. He was from France, is popularly known as father of modern management. He began his career as a mining engineer, thereafter he even reached up to the post of a managing director. He's conducted various experiments in the field of management, and thus he has published it in the book General and Industrial Management, which as you can see on the screen. His 14 principles, thereafter the experimentation is come to the conclusions that these 14 principles, if implemented in the field of management, serves as a guidelines for decision making and management actions. As I mentioned, there are 14 principles given by him. I have prepared a smart code for remembering these 14 names. Now if you see, deliberately I have written the spelling of suicide wrong so that it fits in the code. But in today's video I will be focusing on the first 7 principles. So without wasting much time, let's move to the first principle, that is principle of order. Now what Fayol says over here is that there must be place for everything and everything must be in its right place. Okay, I'm sure you will have a shoe rack at home. Then obviously you won't be keeping books in the shoe rack. Books will be kept in the books rack, shoes will be kept in the shoe rack. That's what Fayol says, that there must be place for everything and everything must be in its place. Systematic arrangement of men and material in the organization. Right person should be appointed at the right job, in fact at the right time. For example, a person who has done his specialization, his majors in marketing should not be placed in the finance department. Okay, as you can see in the image, it reminds me of the block game which we have to play in the childhood. We had to place the right shape in the right block. You can see a square can be fitted in the circle or a circle can be fitted in the square, but there are gaps, and that's what happens when a wrong person is placed. Okay, like for example, as I said, if a person who has done his marketing is placed in the finance department, maybe for his bread and butter he will work, but he will not be able to give 100%. Thus Fayol suggests that there must be systematic arrangement so that there is better productivity in the organization. Students, let me also tell you that in every principle I have highlighted the words in blue that will be the keywords which I will be speaking about in the later slide. In fact leads to job satisfaction. Okay, if you have a secure job, you're satisfied over there. If you don't have a secure job, you will not be able to give your 100%. You will not be at peace. There will not be mental peace. So what Fayol suggests is employees should not be kept on a temporary basis for a long time, or it will lead to turnover. What is turnover? That is employees leaving the organization, and turnover is very bad for the organization from the long-term point of view. So thus Fayol suggests that employees must be made permanent. They must be confirmed at work. That doesn't mean they should be confirmed or they should be made permanent in the very next month. Looking at their performance, studying their behavior and their output, the company could take a call. Now, what happens when the employees are given job security? They work with more dedication, they work with commitment, and they are more satisfied at work, which in turn will lead to better productivity and efficiency in the organization. Moving on to the next principle, principle of unity of command. Now the famous phrase applies over here, that is, too many cooks spoil the soup or broth. Now the key word over here is one man, one boss. Now what Fayol says is that a single employee should receive order from one boss and in turn should report to the same boss. For example, if Mr. Ram receives order from Mr. Sham, then in turn Mr. Ram should report the work done or the work assigned by Mr. Sham. Okay, he should not report to some Mr. X or some Mr. Y, because if he has to report to some other person, that person will not accept it the way the person has done it. So what Fayol says is the employee should receive order from one boss and in turn should report to the same boss. What happens if he receives order from more than one bosses? Just imagine, employee in the organization one says, I want the PowerPoint ready for the meeting tomorrow. Whom is he going to listen to? So if he receives order from more than one bosses, then it will lead to confusion and frustration. Okay, as you can see in the image given on the right hand side, the right approach is where one man, one boss, superior giving order to subordinates, and the wrong approach, which leads to definitely confusion, a mess. Moving on to the next principle, that is principle of remuneration, and over here the keyword is salary or wages should be paid on time. Yes, as a human being we need to have a proper balanced diet, that is proper vitamins, proper carbohydrates and all, but as an employee we should definitely have proper vitamin M. There should not be deficiency of vitamin M. Wondering what is vitamin M? That is money. Okay, now very important is that the employees should be paid good salary or wages, and that too on time. There should be a proper date, because when there is a proper date, the employees can plan the finances accordingly, they can plan their compulsory payments accordingly. Now what should the company consider while paying the salary? They should consider the qualification. An employee who is more qualified obviously will get more salary compared to the employee who is less qualified. The same logic applies to experience. The person with more experience will be paid more. Cost of living is a very important point over here. I'm sure your grandparents may have told you someday that they had worked for 100 rupees per month and 200 rupees per month. Can we expect that same income today per month? I'm sure even a monthly income of 10,000 will not suffice us, right? So the cost of living should be considered while paying the salary. The prevailing wage rate, that is the industry, are definitely going to switch over. They're going to find some other place where they are paid more. And what happens when the employees are given good salary? Obviously that is the point where they will be motivated to work hard. Okay, moving to the next principle, that is principle of equity. The key word over here is fair and just treatment of all employees. Now what Fayol says over here is there should not be any discrimination at workplace. There should not be workplace politics. There should not be any bias. There should not be any partiality on the grounds of gender, caste, religion. We see that happening in many countries, okay, wherein some employees are favored, whereas some are not. Now what happens over here? The ones who are not favored will obviously feel jealous, have the feeling of insecurity. Okay, so what Fayol says is there should not be any kind of partiality done. All employees should be treated equally. Okay, so what he says is employees at the same level should be paid same salary, given same workload. Okay, there should not be any favoritism done or nepotism done at the workplace. Moving on to the next principle of subordination of individual interest to organizational interest. It can be also written in the exam as principle of subordination of interest, and thereafter the rest part can be explained in the write-up. The keyword over here is company's goal come first. That is company first and then the employee's goal. Yes, that's what Fayol says over here, that when the employees are working, they should primarily work for the organizational interest and then they should work for the individual interest. That is, their own personal goals should be secondary. Okay, take an example of a soldier. Now a soldier is being trained right in the life of a soldier, wherein he has his ailing mother in the ICU and there is an emergency and he has to be present at the battlefield. Then obviously the soldier will choose battlefield, will choose motherland first. The same thing should happen with the employees, that the employees should mainly work for the organization. What happens when they all work for the organization? Because when all commonly work towards organizational goals, obviously company is going to prosper, company is going to progress, and the direct results will be to the employees, because employees will be paid good salary, they will be promoted, there will be expansion, there will be diversification. Thus Fayol says that the organizational interest comes first and individual interest comes second, that is subordinate. And coming on to the last principle for today, that is principle of authority and responsibility. As you can see in the image, this famous superhero Spider-Man has given a famous dialogue: with great power comes great responsibility. That is the keyword over here. And that what Fayol says is, whoever has been given the authority must be held responsible for it. Many a time it does not happen. The person who has been given authority is not questioned. Okay, there is buck passing of responsibility. So what Fayol says is there should be a proper balance between authority and responsibility, because if authority is more than responsibility, obviously there will be misuse of authority, misuse of power. On the other hand, if responsibility is more than authority, it will lead to work overload and frustration. Okay, people don't have authority but they have been given responsibility to do their task. That is not going to work. So Fayol suggests that there should be a balance, and whoever has been given the authority, he or she should be held responsible for the task, whether it be the credit or whether it is the work not accomplished as per the standard. The principle of order, so there is systematic arrangement of men, material and things. Stability of tenure, that is job security. Unity of command, that is one man, one boss. Remuneration, that is proper salary, good salary on time. Equity, fair and just treatment. Subordination of interest, the company comes first and the personal goals comes later on. And authority and responsibility, I'm living up to the Spider-Man's dialogue. Okay, so thank you.